trail riding or you would like to start trail riding, one thing's for sure is at some point or another you're going to run into dogs. And so knowing how to handle those situations can help keep you safe and can help keep your horse calm. So today I just wanted to walk through everything I've done to prepare my horses and also some things that I've learned just through dog interactions. The first step I took to prepare my own horses for being around dogs is I got them around dogs. This is easier at some places than others because some barns will just have dogs wandering around. So that's a great place for your horse to get to know them and see that the thing running towards them isn't gonna eat them, but it's just playing. The best test for my horses was my mom has a very, very annoying German Shepherd that will just bark and nip and kind of go after the horses. Took the horses there. Tucker met that dog. And so he has been around a lot of dogs and a lot of different types of dogs. The best way to introduce your horse to a dog is to start with the dog on a leash, especially if you don't know how the dog is going to react. For me personally, I remember when we first got Tucker and I was starting to train him, I had my husband with our dog outside of the arena just to the side, and the dog was running around and playing and barking, and he got to see the dog from a distance. So you're really going to need a dog to help you start preparing your horse for being around them. So even if you have like a crazy dog that's not used to being around horses, but you can have them on a leash and get your horse used to that creature and the energy the dog brings, then that is a great place to start. So once your horse is used to dogs on the ground around them while you're on the ground handling your horse, then you can introduce them to the dogs under saddle. So find yourself a good dog, first of all, one that will obey commands, and also one that isn't going to like chase after your horse or bark, but is more so just going to hang out with you. And you can start practicing riding with them. I would start in arena, but then from there you can go out on the trails. So I got my dog out here. Trico! Trico's a tiny little dog, but she's a nice dog to have on the trails because she doesn't really like get underfoot of the horses. Come on. And it just lets the horse get used to seeing this animal out of the corner of their eye. Another thing I've noticed is if your horse is new to dogs, having another more experienced horse with you to where when you're riding around, your horse can kind of see how the other horse handles the dogs. I think it's important to first prepare your horse for running into dogs because the last place you want to start training your horse on that is the trails. The reason for that is number one, people who don't know anything about horses aren't going to handle the situation correctly. So for example, if someone has dogs off the leash, they're not going to know to put the dogs on the leash around the horses. They're not going to know that their dog is probably going to take off after the horses. So you kind of have to have all of that knowledge prepared because you are going to be the one handling the situation, not the dog owner. The very first thing I do once I see a dog up on the trail is I come to a halt. So dogs are predators and they are just innately wired to chase. And so if you are moving, they are more apt to come after you. So if I have my horse standing still, I am just removing some variables that could cause the dog to get more worked up and that could cause my horse to get more worked up. And maybe this comes with experience, but as a dog approaches me, I can usually tell how they're going to handle the situation. So there's some dogs that are just going to ignore the horse altogether, or they're going to be scared of it and just turn and run away. Other dogs will be scared of it, but they will stand and bark and kind of want to investigate. Other dogs are going to be very aggressive or forward and want to immediately come up to the horse and see what it is. And so you kind of need to be able to gauge that when the dog is coming up to you. The first thing you want to do, like I mentioned, is maintain a calm atmosphere. And so if I see a dog coming, if you feel any nerves at all, I'm going to say get off your horse because your horse is going to pick up on your nerves. And so if a dog is approaching you, I would say get off your horse and tell the owner, if the owner's around, like, oh, hey, I have a horse up here, please leash your dog. And so you can just get off. And also this creates a barrier between the dog and your horse. So if I'm off, I can immediately, I'll call the dog over to me and I'll be like, come here, not towards the horse, to me. And then I can get the dog's collar if I need to. So that's one way I do things. If I just want to avoid the situation altogether, I want to get a hold of the dog. You have to be careful with that because you don't want the dog to come after you. So I can see like, okay, is this dog friendly? There's always going to be a level of risk when you're working with animals, especially with two different species that are kind of contrasting to each other. The second thing I do, and this has always worked every time I have done it, is if you've seen Dune and they use the voice, it's kind of like that for dogs. So if you have a dog, you know this. Like you'll call your dog, for example, Trico. I'll be like, Trico, come. If she doesn't listen, I'll be like, Trico, come. If she doesn't listen, after that, I'll be like, Trico, come. And so if you can use this just really stern and assertive voice with dogs, they will usually listen to you, whether they know you or not. And I've been in a few situations. I was in one situation where a dog was on one side of the fence barking, and then it climbed under the fence and came out on the trail at us. And immediately I just went, no! And see, that even freaked him out. But when I went like that, it scared him and he ran back into his yard. So I will rarely get off my horse to get dogs, only in situations where I can tell, like, okay, this dog probably isn't going to be the smartest around the horse. They may want to be overly curious and come at the horse. I will get off. And I want to get off before the dog gets to me. Because once it's at your horse, you know, you trying to get off if your horse is getting worked up and the dog is chasing it, whole other story. So another thing you can do if you're on the ground and a dog is very curious about your horse, it's important to know that the first place your dog is usually going to go is to the horse's back end, because a dog wants to smell your horse as if it's another dog. They want to smell its butt and they want to look at it, or they want to nip at its heels and get it running. And so if you're here, a dog is going to try and come around to your horse's back. What you're going to do, you want to be able to do this quick so you can grab the dog and move your horse at the same time to avoid getting kicked, to avoid the dog's owner getting kicked. You're going to, if I have my reins, take my rein closer to the horse's head. I'm going to bring my hand up and back towards the horse's withers. And as I do that, I'm going to step towards the hind end and pretend I'm grabbing the dog's collar. So I'm going to just show you. I'm going to go like this, grab the dog's collar. I'll do it back this way. Dog's down there, up, grab the dog's collar. So this way I'm kind of moving my horse away and keeping my horse from hurting the dog, but I'm also grabbing the dog to keep the dog safe. Some other things you can do is carry pepper spray. So I always carry pepper spray. If a dog is being aggressive or coming at you and you don't have any other thing to do, use the pepper spray. I mean, at least at that point, you're saving the dog from getting kicked, but you're also deterring it from getting closer to you. Usually in every public space where you're gonna run into a dog, there are laws about how dogs must be on a leash. So if a dog isn't on a leash and it's causing a problem, the dog owner is the liable party. And like I mentioned before, most dog owners aren't gonna know anything about horses, and so don't let them try to grab their dog and be behind your horse. Like if that dog is freaking out. Like, you handle your horse and try to separate the animals, but do not let the dog owner do that. And don't ever be afraid to communicate. Like if I see a dog owner coming and the dog is not on a leash, I will say, please put your dog on a leash. I have horses up here. And now I'm not trying to throw dog owners under the bus, because every single dog owner I've run into on the trails has been great. They've leashed their dogs, and usually they will leash them before I am like fully upon them. So when you see all of those awful videos on social media about dogs going after horses and the horse takes off and it's just a nightmare, the biggest thing to remember is if you can keep your horse calm and if you can come to a standstill and let the dog investigate or go past, that's the best way to handle the situation. Once your horse gets moving, that dog is going to want to chase it or move after it, and that's where you get those situations where the horse is taking off, the rider's out of control. You can never go wrong with having someone with you while you're on the trails. So whether it's another horseback rider who's experienced and they have an experienced horse, like I said, that's good for your horse to see what they should think about dogs. My husband isn't a horseback rider, but he's a bike rider, and we'll go out on the trails and he kind of bikes ahead of me. And if there are dogs coming, he will usually tell the people, oh, there's horses behind me, so please put your dogs on the leash. Dealing with dogs is just one of the many things that you'll run into when it comes to owning and caring for horses. So I have a website that is dedicated to providing you with answers for your horse questions. So whether it's training or care or anything like that, we try to provide good answers for you and what you're looking for. So you can check out our website. It's equinehelper.com. We have over 400 articles now, and so you can probably find anything that you're looking for there. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more weekly horse videos.